Hello everyone, and welcome to my short talk about how we can use Chinese SAR satellites for interferometry. My name is Professor Timo Balz. So first I'm going to talk a bit about bistatic in-SAR processing for DEM generation, because we have quite a number of Chinese SAR satellites that support bistatic or multistatic configurations. And we talk a bit about the in-SAR processing for surface motion detection and possible applications in disaster prevention. For bistatic in-SAR, which is, for example, supported by Wuhan 1, which had a bistatic mission phase, or also for SuperView Neo 2, which is in a bistatic mission phase. What we have is we have one transmitting sensor and then two receiving sensors, so the transmitting sensor is also receiving, and then we have a second sensor also receiving. So we get both interferometric images at the same time. To make interferometry, we need two images, and if they are acquired at the same time, there is no temporal differences between them. There is nothing changing on the ground which may affect our processing, and the atmospheric effects are also identical for both of these images. So this makes it much easier to process such data, and it's ideal for DEM generation because there's no temporal decorrelation and no atmospheric changes of them. Okay, so we're having here, when we look at a SAR image, we're actually looking at a complex image. That means we have a complex number which has a real and imaginary element, an amplitude and a phase if you want to. And if we are having, here is the amplitude image that we typically look at, and this is the phase image, and the phase of a single image is very much meaningless because it is basically random noise. Now, it is not actually random, as it still refers to distances, but it has no meaningful information for you. But if we come to phase differences between two images, then we come to interferometry, and that's what we are dealing with. So in InSAR, we have a geometry that is shown here. Let me change here, I can explain it a bit better here. So what we are setting up, we need two satellites, and the distance between them we call baseline. Baseline is a term we often use in interferometry, be it for the distance, which is the interferometer baseline, this perpendicular baseline, or the temporal baseline, which is the time difference between them. Now, in InSAR, we are especially interested in this perpendicular baseline because this allows us to form a perpendicular triangle, and if we have a perpendicular triangle, well, then we can do all kinds of trigonometric transformations and other nice mathematical tricks, which helps us to get from these distance differences that we measure to topographic differences, to heights and DEM models. So this is the interferogram that we reach if we put these images together and then make image, the phase of image 1 minus phase of image 2. And you see here, these are the range differences here in range. This we want to remove, and if we remove them, we call that a flat earth interferogram, which you see here. Let me switch positions to here, and now we have here these interferometric lines that are basically, in a simplified sense, representing here the height, and we can imagine that as the height lines of a topographic map, which would make these here heights going up or down in a way. And if these isolines, if these height lines, if these fringes, as we call them in interferometry, getting closer to each other, we see a steeper mountainside. So this is pretty much like a height map. Now, and actually this is how we can use that to create a DEM out of this information. What we have to do is basically to unwrap, that's what we call these fringes. Now, unwrapping please forgive me, INSA experts out there if I'm too simplified, in a very simplified way, right? The unwrapping would be, if we imagine that as a height line, as a height map, right? This would be the isolines, but without a number. And in unwrapping, we would start from saying, for example, this would be the point 0, and then we would add up our 10, 20, 30, 40 meters, unwrapping along here these faces. So this is the process that we call unwrapping, and this was a bit simplified, but I hope you get the meaning. Now, these fringes and the density of these fringes very much depend on the wavelength. So if you have an X band, like for example superfew, right, we have very dense fringes with C band, so this is 3 centimeters, would be 5 centimeters. The fringes get less dense. In L band, you see, like Lutan, we have less and less dense fringes. So in, again, a quick and simplified matter, right, we can say, well, from X band, because these fringes are smaller, we can get a more finer, more precise DEM than from L band. But on the other hand, you add some noise to this X band data, your processing will suffer much more than if you imagine some noise here on the L band data, where even with a good amount of noise, we still can process and unwrap this data. So this is the basic inference of the wavelengths of that. Differential INSAR is another very interesting process where we are not looking to create a DEM, but what we want to do is we want to estimate motion, right? So we are looking in interferometry, we're always looking at distance differences, and we can move from distance difference to topography. However, it is very clear that distance difference is clearly also related to motion. So we can derive motion displacement very directly from these phase differences and range differences. Now this is a very famous example here of the Bam earthquake in Iran, one of the famous slides and images that you see quite often. We can see here the motion caused by the earthquake, and it's a very typical example and also a very typical application of the INSAR here, where we can see surface motion measurement in action. And another example here is here you can show here Svenio 2. Here this area, this is a mining area, and we can see here this phase differences showing here deformation on certain points in the field, which we then can also measure and which we could quantify by counting the fringes or by putting it in some analytical processing. So you can see with the INSAR we can measure very fine motion elements, and we can make small and subtle surface motion visible. So what does it mean for disaster reduction? Well, every disaster related to surface motion does very much benefit from this ability to measure this small motion. So landslides, volcanoes, earthquakes are typical examples where we use the INSAR. Also volcanoes and landslides as precursors, because we can see motion before the actual catastrophic event happens. For volcanoes, that's very common. We can see them growing when magma is coming in. Landslide often has precursors in their motion, especially if we can identify speeding up of motion. That is a clear warning sign for that. So every disaster application related to such motions benefits strongly from the INSAR. From SAR in general, related to water, there's many applications for that, as we can identify water surfaces relatively good in SAR images. Even more, a lot of basic DM information is generated from SAR images from, for example, some of the bistatic missions are shown. If we have a good DEM, we have then better capability for flood prediction and flood warning mapping. Also important is the all-weather capability of SARs or SAR systems can get data under, to say, almost all-weather conditions. If you have a very strong rainfall and a small wavelengths, you may have situations where you cannot get the data that you want, but this is comparably seldom. So with the almost all-weather capability of SAR, we can continuously getting data. This is very important for disasters because, well, we can't wait for good weather. If we have a disaster situation, we need information now. And also disasters like flood are often related to clouds and rain. So their SAR might be the only available satellite data source. So Chinese SAR satellites for disaster risk reduction have the advantage that we have a high variability of different sensors with different wavelengths, different orbits and different configurations, and a large number of available satellites. And this allows us to get the data fast, right? If you have many satellites in space, then if a disaster happens, you have a good chance to get data quickly with the next overpass of your satellites coming. As Chinese SAR satellites and SAR systems typically process using the APSC, or at least offer the APSC algorithm, this also allows for fast processing, which in disaster situations can be important, because in disaster situation, disaster relief and sending out help, right, every minute counts, and fast processing can become very important as well. So these are advantages that we can have if we use Chinese SAR satellites. Now, with that, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you got some new information that's interesting for you. And here is also my email address if you have questions or you want more information. Thanks again for listening.